a foreign language. If you literally don't learn anything in Spanish 1, how are you supposed to move on to Spanish 2, or different math classes or science classes? So for me, I would be in favor of not the F, but the no credit earned, based on the fact that the seniors and other grades can retake those classes in the summer or in the fall. And hopefully that's discussed later if they take it in the summer, if there is some way that we can pay for students to retake and not have the financial burden be on them for this summer like it normally is. And that will be another thing that we'll discuss or look at our finances. But I'm fine with giving the no credit as long as they have the option to retake in the summer and fall. As far as the no harm grading, I mean, I was an advocate of that last time, and I'm still an advocate of it. There are several other districts who are doing it. You've heard and gotten emails from students advocating for it. And so my reasons, again, for not moving any letter grade at all is basically because of an equity piece. So again, surrounding districts are doing it. And that's not saying that we have to, but I think it's something to take into consideration, kind of what we're dealing with in our surrounding areas, but also throughout the state. But the big thing is resources. So there's different things going on with each teacher. Are they doing live instruction or not? Where are they posting the assignments and resources? Is it one platform and all organized? Is it 7 or 8 different things that they are dealing with? We already have that issue during the normal school year, which I've referred to before. Like, there are so many inconsistencies going on with late work and grading scales and all of this. That's already an issue. But then to continue that inconsistency during this pandemic is exacerbating the equity issues that are in place for students. And that is absolutely not fair. Referring to the spreadsheet that we saw, yes, we are seeing that teachers are not accepting late work. And these are the school sites that actually ask the teacher the questions, if they are accepting late work or not. Not every school site had that ask that question of their teachers. So we need to know that it's probably a lot more than just the 1 or 2 school sites that actually said, yeah, I don't accept late work. I think we should assume that more are doing that, unfortunately. Also, in that spreadsheet, when are things due? Some teachers are saying, oh, it's due at midnight that same day. Oh no, actually for my class, it's due the next day. Oh, for my class, it's actually due on Friday of that week. So again, there's so many different things that they're dealing with from an equity piece and what they're dealing with at home. You know, did a parent lose a job, or do they own a small business and they're trying to deal with finances there? Do they have a parent or a loved one that is sick? Like, all of these things are going on. You know, are they sharing a Chromebook? Do they have younger siblings in the background that are screaming? Again, it happens to me all the time on my live classrooms, so I'm sure it happens to teachers here. And again, that's not fair if they don't have a place to concentrate. So their stress levels are going up. So those are the reasons for it. Again, some reasons against, which people have brought up, are if kids are happy with the grade that they got on March 13th, they're going to stop working. I'm sure that that's going to happen, but there's nothing that we can do to monitor that. We're not that child and we're not their parent, and it happens during the normal school year anyway. When we have normal grading in place, kids don't do their work. So it's going to be the same here. So you might think that that's not fair. Like, why are we going to continue to give them the A if they did nothing after? Or like they're checking out. But I think what's more unfair is punishing the kids who are lacking proper resources at home or at school. This pandemic is not their fault, and we should not be punishing them for things that are out of their control. And again, to people who say it's not fair to the kids who keep working, they keep working, they're getting that A or B, or even C, and trying to raise that. Again, there's nothing we can do about that, but I think that it is important that we focus on intrinsic motivation and learning just to learn. Like, we are all so obsessed with grades, and why can't we just take this one semester to let the kids relax and actually learn just to learn, like we all do as adults? Like, we are learning, we constantly learn every day, and we're supposed to be having kids in this district who are lifelong learners. So we should be praising them for that now and encouraging them to keep working without that grade being held over their head. And yeah, we're already like here in the middle of May and school gets out in a month. It's, or, you know, the classes are going to be done or material in like 3 weeks. I don't think it makes a difference. So that's my take on no harm grading. And yeah, I would like to see for both the middle school and high school that their grade would not go lower, and still keeping the pass option for ABC or credit for a D for that. Thank you.
Okay. I was making notes. Okay, so very good. Thank you, Megan. That was very well said. Now, Linda. Or Matt, I mean, or Rick, I don't care. Matt or Rick, sorry, Rick or.
I can go. So let me just make sure I'm answering the questions that we're supposed to be answering. So correct me if I'm not doing that. First of all, I want to thank Lindsay for all of her work on this. We're not going to ever make anyone happy, and she's trying to do the best she can, and we all appreciate that. I think I'm going to come at it from a mental health lens, and I'm going to assume that a lot more kids are struggling than are diagnosed with anything. I see it in the kids that I'm around a lot, so I'm going to try to keep it together while I'm talking, because it's pretty rough. The young man, Luke Wells, who said that it's the most important semester of his life, like, that breaks my heart that he would say that, because it's not anymore. It might have been originally, but it's not. And it's in fact the least important semester of his life, including kindergarten. It's just not important. So he just needs to, and all the kids just need to let all that go. It's not going to impact your college placement or anything like that, what happens this semester. And I firmly believe that, because every college admissions director in America is going to tell you that. To answer the questions, what I would prefer to do with the student that Ms. Barton was talking about is to wipe the class and let kids take some kind of credit recovery in the summer if they're seniors, and just retake it in the next year if they're an underclassman. And that's the consequence that they're going to have, is that they're going to have to retake the class. If they want to go to a four-year college, they're going to have to retake the class if they have a D as well. And that's just part of the consequence of life. There are consequences for that. You wipe the class, it's not even sitting there. It doesn't even have to say no credit. It can just be not there. I have a friend who's a superintendent in Northern California in a high school only district, and that's what his district has done with those kind of situations. So I'll just throw that out as another option. And then as far as the no harm thing, I want to protect kids with the late work thing, because that really upsets me that that's just not being followed. And also I want to protect kids who are in classes with no synchronous learning. If we want to change it from, lowering your grade more than 2 letter grades to 1 letter grade, I could live with that too. That would be okay. One might be kind of a compromise that we could think about. Credit is a D, it's the same thing. So I don't care what you can call it, either thing, but it's basically the same thing either way. So I don't know how many kids are in that situation. I'll defer to the experts on that. And yeah, if it requires some summer staff work, I apologize, but I agree with Megan that you've got to let kids see their final grades before they decide, especially our underclassmen who are trying to make decisions and just not sure how they're doing. I think we have kids who are struggling in ways that that their teachers don't know about. They're angry, they're upset, they're confused, they're anxious. All these emotions go through, kids preschool through 12th grade. And so we have to be aware of that. And I think everyone has the kid's best interest at heart, but I think a little compromise on the part of the board and perhaps just wiping those F's as if you never took the class and letting them making them take it again the next year. And that also helps with the problem with math and foreign language as well, that you can't push kids on. And like I said last time, if you're getting a D in something that's cumulative, you got to take that class again anyways. You're never going to succeed. So I think I got all the issues there.
Okay.
And I have 3 more comments. Do you want me to read them now or after Rick goes, or whenever?
I'll have to read them after Rick, but let me go ahead and state that it's 9:32. Let's not, I think we're done with taking public comments. So I probably should have said that earlier. Every time we do one of these meetings, I make myself notes and then I forget to follow them. So go ahead and, keep the 3 you have, I guess, in the queue, and let's cut off the public comments that we're accepting them at this point. And let's go ahead and hear what Rick has to say.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I think there are a lot of issues, and I think no matter what we do, we're not going to make everybody happy. And I think that there are a lot of families struggling in different ways. And we don't know, as Linda said at our last meeting, people make assumptions that we know about what other people are going through, but we really don't. I'm not in favor of a pure no harm grading system. I think if we went that way to a pure no harm, I think a better solution for us would be just a straight pass, a credit, no credit or fail. That would be actually more equitable to everyone than having just no harm grades. I do think that a pure no harm and a pass fail option is more lenient than I would see, and I think it devalues the hard work of the students that are getting A's and doing that. So that's why I would prefer pass fail. What I actually would be my recommendation is, first, let me start with the 2 easy issues, which is I think as part of grading with compassion, I think we all had a consensus that our teachers should be accepting late work. I think that, Suzanne's had this kind of been an issue of hers since as long as I've been on the board, that she thinks our teachers should owe us at least give some credit to late work. And so I think that, Alex, I would ask you to make sure that our principals are directing our teachers to make sure that they're all accepting late work, and that that's not a decision up to an individual teacher as to whether or not they can accept it. How much credit should be given, that can be an individual teacher decision, but that all our teachers throughout the district must be accepting late work during this crisis. The other thing that Tesha brought up as a former attorney before she became one of her top teachers was expiration date on the resolution. I think that this resolution should be only for the second semester of our 1920 academic year. And so just a little housekeeping there. So I think that where we should be on the grades are, straight A, B, C, D, and then it can be either, F or no credit. I don't really care which way we go on that one. If the student elects on a course-by-course basis, which I think is pretty liberal, that it should then be pass, credit for what would be a D, and then a no credit for, an F or no credit. But I do think it's important to have the credit distinguished from the pass for the sake of, the UCs who don't recognize a D as a passing grade. I am kind of more lenient towards our seniors. I don't want to hold anybody back from graduating this year, even if they would deserve it under, so to speak, under normal circumstances that they totally checked out. And so to some extent, I do think that, potentially thinking about no fail or no credit for a senior who needs in a class that's necessary to graduate. Yes, Lindsay.
So just so everyone knows, we do offer senior review, and we have indicated to families who had students who were failing at the 3rd quarter that senior review will be offered online. The students are able to take up to 10 credits free of charge if they're seniors, in order for them to cross that graduation line. So we do offer that every year, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we should. I think we should still do it because they need the education, but at the same time, I don't want to harm any kid from graduating in this crisis. So I'd be lenient on the seniors, allowing them to graduate despite not meeting normal requirements. I'm okay with the 2-letter grade kind of max drop. If somebody wanted to soften it to 1, I could probably go there. I wouldn't, like I said, I'm against going to a complete no harm policy. I kind of feel that the pass-fail decision that, I was actually an advocate of having it made kind of now when AP exams were going on. But I do think that I know Stanford traditionally, not just in COVID times, has offered pass-fail post-grade so that you could actually know your grade when you chose to pass-fail or not. That's not the norm at most colleges, where you have to choose relatively early at most schools. Some schools have later deadlines, but ones can be pass, no credit. And so I do think I'm in favor of actually asking the kids to choose prior to actually knowing their grades. Because I think that most kids have a pretty good sense of where they are, at that time, and at least they should. And I think I would encourage that maybe to aid in that the teachers be asked to provide preliminary grades to the students at a certain point when they have to make the pass, to choose between grades or pass credit or no credit options. So that's kind of where I am on the whole set.
Okay. All right, well, this is the challenge. So the challenge is to come up with a policy that we can essentially rewrite right now, so that we can pass it tonight, so that we can put this to bed and move on. If we wait until the next meeting and do this again, we'll just have more complicated issues. I think we actually do have a kind of a better understanding. And I think it's important for everyone to know that when we as board members look at different information, you read a ton of things, not knowing what is going to impact what kind of a decision, right? So just having a better understanding of what kind of instruction our teachers are providing and getting that, this week back from our sites has really helped me look at this policy and see what's really happening. And all I really know, of course, is what teachers wrote, that they said how they were providing that instruction, which, is not like interviewing every single person. But I just think it's important that people know that all different kinds of information we receive are what helps us create our opinions on how we go from here, right? So it sounds to me, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I forgot the 4 comments. Yep, I forgot.
Lindsay, just to clarify the no harm, that would mean if we were to decide that route, that would be the March 13th grade, or students could go higher depending on work that they've completed at this time.
So the traditional sense of no harm, or kind of what the common no harm has been with other districts, has to have basically like a snap back to third quarter. On the last page of the resolution where it says no student grade shall be lowered more than 2 or 1 or whatever the board decides, that can be construed as a no harm clause, basically.
But could their grade, based on the work that they've done, could it go up from what that was?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so it's actually 4 comments. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Susan, but
Sorry.
these are very short. Okay, so this is from David Eaton. There are nearly 4,000 high school students at PV and Penn. Assuming a course load of 5 classes, that's 20,000 individual grades. Under those circumstances, 800 or so Fs doesn't seem like a huge problem. Don't change the policy to accommodate an extreme minority of students. This is from Blake Gilman. What is the percent of high school students failing? Is the percent different this year versus last year? Student population changes. This would give a better idea of the proportion of students who are getting Fs. Additionally, teachers should be required to accept late work and show a paper trail that indicates their efforts to ensure the students are given every opportunity to keep their grade. This is from Adam Rue. I think the question at this point is who are you trying to help? Half of the semester occurred prior to schools closing. And to Mr. Brock's point, students have had the uncertainty of grades over their head this entire time, almost 2 months. The students who care have continued to try. The students that don't have not. Those are most likely the same students that didn't care before the shutdown. You assume these kids can have a normal day. Have you considered the daily underlying stress they are under? Many families are concerned about their finances and their futures. You just heard teachers tell you they're having to adapt. You heard Dr. Turnus say we don't even have an online program. How do you grade kids on that? To assume this doesn't impact our kids is naive. Move to a do no harm policy. That protects all kids. They can do better, but not worse. And the last comment is from Kim Hamburg. My daughter is in 10th grade, and in March she had a D in geometry and has brought it up to a B with lots of hard work and online tutoring. If you decide we go back to March 13th grades, she will have to retake the class during the summer. Her teacher has only had 2 Zoom meetings, with the second one giving notice 2 hours prior, and she was in another meeting. She is worried and stressed about the decision. Please make it so that the students can at least take the grade that they have worked hard for. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, just to clarify for her, no one is saying that. That's
Right.
not a possibility. That's probably the one thing that everybody agrees on. So this student should sleep well and be really, really proud of her B.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there one more, Megan, or that's it?
That's it.
Okay. Okay. So Lindsay, can you also just clarify for us, if a student gets whatever grade they get and they don't think they deserve that grade, explain to me, once we adopt one of these kind of policies, what is the grade dispute process that parents, I mean, is it different? Is it the same? I'm just curious.
So there is a grade appeal policy that we don't actually need to change. So there's a process where if there's a concern about a grade, then the parent and or student should first talk to the person who gave the grade, which would be the teacher. Generally, we have our teacher work with our parents directly. That's the way that we want it to be, just so that there's an understanding of what happened in the classroom. And then if that does not come to resolution, then we oftentimes will ask the principal to be involved. And after the principal is able to go through documents and evidence, and let me clarify, backtrack a little bit, that there has to be a qualification under the education code. So there's 4 education codes or reasons under which a grade can be challenged and changed. And so parents have to bring that evidence under which education code that it might be. And then if it doesn't get resolved with the principal, then it does come to our office. And then we go through a process of, we've had panels, we've had, different things to look at a resolution for the grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. All right. So I am also, given where we are tonight and what we've learned, I also think that the no harm grading as of the March 13th is a good idea. I thought it was a good idea last meeting. I didn't think we had a lot of support for it outside of myself and Megan, but it sounds like Matt is also a fan of the no harm grading given where we are today. Well, given where we are today, you can say we're going to make every teacher allow late work, but we don't know if that's actually going to happen between now and the end of this school year. And we're in a very difficult situation. I don't feel like if we have to overreact or react in a way that we normally wouldn't, I would rather overreact in the way that helps kids. And sure, some kids are going to go, ha ha, I didn't have to do very much work. Okay, well, unfortunately, if that's how they want to look at it, that's fine. But if it actually helps kids that need it, that's the point of all this, right? So the point is to actually do no harm. So I, again, need to come up with a policy that we can actually verbalize. I asked Jana about this before the meeting. We need to verbalize this in a way that is intelligible enough so that it's written down, so that it's in the minutes correctly, and that we do this right. So I'm also in favor of having the grade deadline for the choice of the pass, no pass, or the pass, no credit, or credit, whatever we're going to end up with on that one. I'm in favor of having that be after the school year. So maybe at the end of June, that would be a reasonable time frame. Lindsay, I don't know.
If that's where the board would like to go, I would say I would recommend the 26th of June.
Okay.
So that allows staff to get grades in. It allows us to fix whatever we need to fix if there's any submissions that are missing. And then that gives families a week after they see their grades if they feel like they need to see their grades. So I do think that there are some families who might make this decision sooner, but then that does give them a week to submit the information that we would need to do the alternate grade.
Okay.
Ms. Lewis presented us with that college data sheet, right? And just I want it to be clear to families out there that if students do choose the pass, no pass, credit, no credit, colleges will ask them more than likely to explain their decision, and they'll have to explain that rationale. If a district offers A through F grading in addition to pass fail, colleges will ask why you opted for that pass fail. So I think that needs to be very clear to anybody considering taking pass fail, that you will be asked why you decided to do that, and you should have a good reason to have done that.
Right, and there's a paragraph in the second page, bottom paragraph does say that you need to consider your college admissions, options and make that choice. But right, so I do feel like we did put that in here. All right, so I think that the way to do this then would be to say that if Megan and Matt and I, at least, I don't think Linda said she was in favor of the no harm grading on March 13th, but that one of you two is going to have to make an actual motion if you want that in there that has all the other pieces listed, right? So it's going to be tricky. So somebody be writing this down besides me. So we think the June 26th grade date for if you decide to do a pass, no pass. We want to have the no harm grading as of the third quarter grade, which would be, actually, would it be third quarter grade or would it be March 13th? I thought it was March 13th.
So March 13th is when we close, but teachers were instructed to use grades up to that point for their third quarter grades.
Okay, I thought that. Okay, so I was confused for a nanosecond there. So, I would include that in there, and then we are going to keep our, I guess, A through D grading, and then add instead of, I don't know if we got to instead of an F, have a no credit, because then that doesn't impact your GPA. And we know for our seniors, if they are 10 credits short, they can still graduate as long as they do senior review. So if we have a senior that needs more than 10 credits, I certainly hope that's being addressed, honestly. I do have a question about students that get a no credit, right? So we don't give Fs, we give you a no credit. It doesn't count in your GPA, and you are a freshman, sophomore, junior. We don't offer summer school that's no cost, do we? We didn't used to, right? So how can we fix that for the students that need to make that up before they take a class, in the fall? I'm worried that in the fall, we'll be doing distance learning to some degree, and that's not going to be a great environment to do makeup grades either, probably. So if you didn't do well in this environment in online education, are you going to do better in the fall in online education? I don't think so. Maybe you will. Maybe we're going to do a better job. I don't know. We don't need to set kids up to be having a very hard time ever making up, the classes in language arts. I think you can not pass second semester and still take first semester, right? But if you don't pass your first semester language arts, you're not supposed to even be able to do second semester. So we don't need more of our kids in a dire situation. So Lindsay, can you help me with that?
So it depends on the course. So if a student, let's say, didn't pass second semester English, they can still go to the next English class and they can double up the second semester if they want to, or they can take it over the summer. If we were to offer anything over the summer, obviously that would be a cost for us. My only concern would be just kind of how we would monitor it. So we've left no seniors behind since I've been in the district. But it does take a lot of monitoring. So my only concern is that if we have hundreds of kids who are taking courses and we don't have staff to monitor them, because it does take sometimes prodding and a lot of love to get the kids to cross the line. That's my only concern about if we were to offer something. So that will cost the district money, because we do have to pay for some sort of an online license for them. In addition to, we would have to find a way so that they can be monitored and helped along should they need some support.
Okay, so say you're a sophomore and you're in Spanish 2, and you do not pass, right? You get the no credit.
Yeah.
Can you take Spanish 3?
They should not. It is not recommended that the students take Spanish 3. However, the colleges do validate different courses that are in succession, like Spanish. So for example, let's say a student, for whatever reason, had a COVID crisis. Let's say they end up, dropping the class or whatever it is. They shouldn't go on. It's not recommended that they go on, but they can go on. And let's say they get an A the second semester of the next level, the colleges will validate that grade.
Okay.
It is not recommended, though. I want to be very clear that Counseling 101 will tell you it's not recommended, just because, obviously things like language and math build on each other. And so we want to make sure kids have the prerequisite knowledge in order to be successful the next year.
Okay. Well, perhaps after this evening, when we get this policy hammered out, every single teacher counselor with children who have not passing grades will spend the next 3 weeks helping kids, talking to their parents, figuring out how to get them to get to a place where they can pass. I mean, I know they all try anyway, but it feels like this situation is not typical, and we don't want to see kids going the other direction, right? Kids not doing as well as they have been. So we have heard from obviously a lot of kids in this situation. So. All right, so then back to the grades. So ABC.
And Lindsay, sorry, quick question. I know this is brought up at the middle school because they have the trimester system instead of semester. So some teachers advocated for the second trimester being the grade versus whatever. I think they were a week into third trimester with like 1 or 2 assignments.
Yes.
So do you have a recommendation on that?
So we can write it. I didn't write anything in for a no harm for middle school. So we can write that in, basically say for year-long classes, that the students can't go lower than the end of second trimester if that is what the board wishes. Because there are trimester electives, and obviously they can't snap back to anything because they only had them for 4 days. So if we want to say for year-long intermediate school classes, then they would go to second trimester.
Okay. I'd be an advocate of that. I don't know how other people feel, but I would advocate for that for middle school as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, how is middle school handling kids that happen to be having a different elective if they're on that wheel third semester and they were in it for a week? I mean, how are you getting a grade in that class if you're in chef or something? I mean, is it?
So I guess that's the question in terms of the grades, is because they only had them for 4 days. I can tell you that anecdotally, I haven't talked to every elective teacher, but I can tell you that I have talked to some who are really working very hard to try to make some sort of a sense of a classroom culture with the kids, just because they didn't have a chance to establish that, in addition to try to connect with them as much as possible. And I do know that I've talked to some teachers who have had kids with challenges, even though they had only known each other for a week at the time of closure, and they are working with those families and kids who are having challenges.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's only the electives. Most of the courses at the intermediate level are year-long.
Year-round, right? Okay. Okay, right. So I think we'll have to have a statement in there about middle school being the year-long classes. The student can get the second trimester grade, third trimester. If the board wants to go that way, that seems reasonable. And, you know, I know people think middle school grades are not all that relevant, but we have lots of kids in middle school that get perfect grades all through middle school. And we don't want to take that away, you know, from them. So, okay. All right. So back to the grades. So, I don't know. You think we're ready to get to a place where we can make a motion here?
I'm willing to give it a try. Just before I do, to Megan, one of the things you said, you know, for the sake of learning, it struck me so true. My son started first grade. I remember the teacher coming in saying, "Mr. Brock, what do you expect out of your child's education?" And I just looked at her and I said, "I want my son to love to learn. If he loves to learn, everything else will come to him. You know, I don't care if he walks out of here knowing, you know, all of his stars and his shapes and his A's and his, if he loves to learn, it will all come to him." So that really, I'm so glad you said that. And with that, I'd like to make this motion. The board passed a no harm grading policy that allows students to retain or improve their grade as it stood March 13th, 2020. A through D grading will be based on grades held at March 13th. A grade of 59% or less will be given no credit. Students will have the option on June 26th to opt for a credit, no credit grade. Does that address everybody's?
Yeah, I think by June 26th, right? And then one line for the middle school. In middle school, the year-long classes will
be based, okay. Middle school will be based on second semester grades.
Trimester.
So I just want to be clear. So in intermediate school, your grade at the end of the second trimester will be your, okay.
or higher.
Or higher. And that's for year-long classes.
Intermediate school, year-long classes will be based on second trimester grade.
But also, can I make a correction on that, Matt? You said credit, no credit. So I think you just meant pass, no credit. Is that?
Okay.
We're doing pass, no credit, right?
Okay.
Pass, you have a choice to choose pass or
credit. Okay.
As of June 26.
And can we clarify? So the student who has a D would either choose the D or just credit, correct?
Right. So they can choose pass, no credit, but through this, right? But if they have a grade of 59% or less, they'll be given no credit.
Right. So like the way it's written though is I think the pass was A through C and the credit was a D. And then that's where I asked Lindsay, and I think Rick brought this up about the colleges knowing the difference, right? Kind of between them. So I know there's a lot of options, but Lindsay, can you just confirm that if I guess what you said, the D students could either choose the D or they could get a credit, and there's basically a mark in our, like on their transcript or showing our school basically what the difference is between pass and credit. Is that
correct? So the way that it's currently written is a pass would be for 100 to 70%, which would be representative of A, B, and C. And then a 60 to a 69 would be representative of a D. The reason for this is because our UC schools do assume that a passing grade is an A through C. However, we understand that there's a lot of districts out there who have just gone pass, fail. And so they're assuming that the student has an A, B, or C. If we put the credit in, which would be representative of D, it would differentiate so that the colleges would be able to see that, and we would notate that on our school profile, which is basically a sheet that is created by our high schools every year that the colleges are able to see and understand our grading policy. We do this every single year. This one would just be reflective of this resolution at this time. And then I also wanted to quickly address Ms. Spartan's concern about the end of this resolution. And so it does talk about that this is for the remainder of the school year. And so it is for the second semester or end of trimester. So we can put something in that says it expires whatever day, but it does specifically talk about the end of this school year.
Okay. I'll just add this policy will remain in effect. Should we have to do it through August because or June 26th or?
Wait, Lindsay, where does it say that? Because actually I see the last sentence saying it shall become effective immediately upon its adoption and shall remain in effect until repealed by formal board action. Or do I have an old copy?
No, under each grade, under each level. So it says grades TK through 5 for the remainder of the school year, and then grades 6 through 12 for the third trimester, fourth quarter 2020.
So Lindsay, what would you recommend for an end date?
We can put, I think maybe we should put a little bit further just in case we do have grade appeals. So we can do something like, August 1st or something like that.
Okay, August 15th?
Sure.
Okay, I'm ready to try it again.
I'm impressed that you're typing this because I'm handwriting it and thinking, what a disaster I have all over this.
Well, I'm not sure it's any better. That the board pass a no harm grading policy that retains A through D grading and allows students to retain or improve their grade as it stood March 13th. Intermediate school year-long classes will be based on second trimester grades. A through D grading, a grade of 59% or less will be given no credit. A grade of 60 to 69 would have the option of a letter grade or a pass with asterisks. Students will have the option by June 26th to opt for a pass, no credit grade. This policy will remain in effect through August 15th. Is that close enough?
I think that was everything except the D would be a credit, not a pass.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Would be a credit.
I'm not going to read it again. I'm just going to.
The rest was great.
Okay.
No, I think that's, obviously all the other stuff that we didn't change, like the elementary's in there. You're just talking about the stuff that we're trying to customize tonight.
So if I will just quickly reread that one section. A grade of 59% or less will be given no credit. A grade of 60 to 69 would have the option of a letter grade or a credit with asterisks.
And we have in there the option of them choosing pass, correct?
Yes, students will have the option by June 26th to opt for a pass, no credit grade.
So yeah, so do we have to say pass credit / no credit? I don't know if we want to make that correct, but anyway, Lindsay, you know the point of the motion. Matt, keep that because we're going to have you email that to Lindsay and Jana. So worst case is whatever you put up, whatever you come up with here. If we think there's something that wasn't exactly right, we can just tweak it again at the next meeting. But I'd like to be able to put this to bed and know that we're done essentially with this, and that everyone has heard who's watching that the seniors can work on 10 credits to make sure they can graduate, and that I think as we work on the distance learning options for next year, we're going to have to be aware that we will have students that are going to need to repeat or make up units. And how are we going to do that if we're moving to a platform like Apex, which is not what we've been using this semester, which is why, in a perfect world, I would give everybody credit, and I would just give all kids a credit for this semester, whether they had a issue or not, because I think it's going to be very difficult moving forward for our kids who are already having a lot of problems, right? You're not getting Fs in life if you don't have issues going on. So I'm hoping that there ends up with a lot fewer failing grades between now and the end of the school year. All right. So with that, Matt made that motion, and I think, Megan, were you going to second that?
Second.
Okay. So any more conversation before we do a roll call vote? No? All right. So we will now vote by roll call. Board Member Phillips.
No.
Okay. Megan Crawford.
Yes.
Linda Reed.
No.
No. Matthew Brock.
Yes.
Suzanne Seymour. Yes. So that motion will pass 3-2.
Do
All right.
you need to know why, or we're not doing that?
Oh yeah, no, let's do that. Like you can always say why you do or don't want to vote for something. I don't think we have to require it, but certainly I think it's good to know. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
And I prefer to have not one letter grade below as instead of the total no harm, because I think it keeps kids in class for the next month, which is great for their mental health to at least be showing up and trying a little bit. And I prefer that instead of the no credit, we just wipe the class and have the kids retake it. So those are my two reasons for voting no.
I can appreciate those.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I think I stated most of mine during my discussion, but I just think the combination of total no harm and pass fail is too far on the leniency side. I like Linda thought, a compromise of one grade would have been appropriate. And the wipe idea actually, I think makes some sense. But yeah, as a package, I think it's a bridge too far for me.
All right. Well, that was actually very difficult to get through. I appreciate everybody hanging in there. And I honestly hope that all of our students and teachers really work hard for the next few weeks to do the best work and to learn and to make the best out of this really not great situation. And when we roll out our online education, our distance learning opportunity for next year, hopefully we will think through the grading pieces and all of this, when we do that, so we don't end up in a situation that's quite so, tough for our kids and our teachers.
President Seymour?
Yeah.
I just would like to ask, I just received an email, so just to help clarify for anybody who's out there, they're worried that, since I'm watching the board meeting, I'm concerned the board is forcing my students to take the grade they earned second trimester. Because of our circumstances, I've allowed students to submit late work with no penalty and given full credit for work completed. So no, we are not saying you cannot improve your grade or that you have to just keep what your grade was. It just means that you cannot go below that grade. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear that, no, we're not saying that whatever you had is what the best you can do.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So moving right along, it is 10:10. All right. So P4, the California Fiscal Update. So I think that would be Brenna or Dr. Chernus, I'm not sure.
Okay. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay, good. Nothing like a financial report at 10:15 at night. I will try to be brief. So what we have here is the Department of Finance's financial update. As I mentioned, May revises tomorrow. And so it goes through the financial situation. As I mentioned before, the three main revenue sources for school districts are personal income tax, corporation tax, and sales tax. All of these have been extremely depressed over the last several months. here's where the money goes. So 35% goes to schools. And so I've talked about the size of the pie. Here's the pie. It's really small right now because all of those revenues on the prior page are really small. So we still get 34.7% of the pie. It's just going to be a small pie. So in the Budget Act 2019, this was the January budget report, $57 billion for schools. Since then, and also projecting in January 2% growth through 2023. None of that's happening. Unemployment rate 3.8%. It's going to be 25%. So if this is, we're in a surreal situation here. Surplus of 5.6 billion, and now we're in a recession. 26.5% decrease in GDP. That's unbelievable. Declines of 470 billion by 2023 in personal income tax. So this is why I think what we're going to see in the budget report is deferrals, because their assumptions are growth in quarter two, in Q2 of 2021, right? So that'll be around now next year. You see huge growth. And so they're going to defer money until then and assume that we'll get it then, which we may not.
Alex, how long can they defer for? Is it only a quarter, or is it
They'll year to year, year over year. So this deferral will actually be over 2 years, because they're going to defer current year money through before July 1st. So we're in fiscal year right now, 2020. So they're going to, we think they're going to defer 2020 money that we're supposed to get now to 21, and they're going to defer 21 money to 22.
So the longest they can do it is a year.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so here's the revenue drops. So that's current year is 9.7 billion. So we went from a 5.6 projected surplus by June 30th to a 10 billion deficit. So these 3 months have like totally turned us upside down. And then next year, so 2021, that starts July 1st, 32 billion deficit. And see at the bottom here, 18.3 billion lower funding for schools, because the pie is smaller, so our slice is 18.3 billion less. Overall deficit, they're projecting 54.3 billion overall deficit from a $5.6 billion surplus. So again, unbelievable. And that is my report. Any questions?
It's not funny, it's sad. Do we have any sense of what our costs to date are for the pandemic? Or
we
what
have a sense. Yeah, I mean, we're tracking that. I mean, it's going to be a lot more if we have to pay for distance learning courses next year, if we have to pay for PPE next year, which we do.
We probably have to pay for both of those, right? Where those are not negotiable. Yeah.
So we're saving a little bit on utilities, but all that's going to add up. And then the big kind of question mark out there is, are we going to lose enrollment? I hope not. But are kids going to go everywhere, right? Throughout California? Are they going to go to online courses and just never come back? So yeah, a lot of questions out there. We'll get some news tomorrow, but the governor, the June 30th budget thing, there's things they can do with that because of the crisis, and actually approve a budget again, revise it and approve it in August. So we're not going to get everything now anyways. It's all moving target. I just don't think they're going to they're not going to realistically be able to cut us to so much if they're asking us to do so much. I mean, they can't have it both ways. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I do know that the stimulus package was not received well when presented to the House. So it's unlikely in its current form it'll be passed, and a lot of that money would have come to the districts. Of course, the problem with that money coming from the feds to us is if it comes like the first CARES package as Title I money, we get a really small proportion of it, which, so it's going to brutalize high performing districts if it comes through Title I, like the other money did. So we're in a world of hurt right now, and we're just going to have to see how bad it is.
Any other comments, guys?
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be really bad, and I don't think the feds are going to be much help, because the California state, budget situation when it comes to education is worse than other states,
right,
in the sense that most states have a larger amount of their education funded by a relatively stable base of property tax revenues, whereas in California, under LCFF, we're essentially funded out of the general fund, which is highly dependent on income taxes, which are very volatile. And so I think it's going to be, we're in this together as a community, and it's going to be one of shared sacrifice. Already, I think, California unemployment claims are like 4.1 million and rising. And so I think that, unfortunately, our district's probably going to be adding to that number. With the budget cuts, we're just not going to be able to retain the same level of employment that we've had in the past, and that's an unfortunate reality. And I think it's going to be very tough. As Alex said, I think a lot of our costs are going to rise, from the what is required to operate our schools safely. And I don't know how much additional funding there will be from that, because it's pretty clear there isn't any available at the California level, at least. Yet we're going to suffer greatly on the revenue side. So I think it's going to be very, very tough budget planning, and we're going to have to work with our unions to implement drastic measures like we did to get through the GFR, and we're going to have to do everything we can creatively to protect the standards of the district in the academic core.
I'd just like to echo, Rick's concerns, and Lindsay and Dr. Chernis, as a district, we need to highlight what we are going to focus our education on. We're going to be able to do less, but doesn't mean we can't do that less better. So we want to keep our high standards, and we want to keep our focus on providing excellent education. It just might not be as encompassing as it has been in the past.
Megan?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chernis, for bringing this forward so that the public can also see the situation that we're facing. Education doesn't get funded enough as it is in California, and this is just adding to it. So just to confirm, so we'll get more information tomorrow, but like you said, it basically can change later. So it's like tomorrow will bring some clarity, but basically we will just keep getting more information in June and summer, basically.
Yeah, I mean, so goes the pandemic.
Yeah.
So goes our budget. And so the sooner the economy starts moving again, the sooner things will look better for us financially.
Thank you.
So we need to, honestly, every employee, all of our, no matter what your role is in the district, we all have to figure out ways to reinvent what we're doing to be more efficient and to try different things, because we cannot keep doing what we've been doing. Obviously, next year we won't have the luxury anyway, because we're going to have this distance learning opportunity for our kids. So this is very, obviously doom and gloom, but I honestly feel like in some ways there will be something good that comes out of this, and that will change something that will maybe serve kids in a different way, a better way. And I have to hope that we can, have the ability to be creative and to try things, because we can't make school have no fun parts, right? Kids want to come to school for the fun stuff too. So we just have to, figure out together really how to move forward. And maybe it won't last as long as we're thinking. We don't know. But, we would appreciate all the good ideas. And I've been getting a lot of ideas from parents that call me on different things, and I keep track. And that's kind of the role we're going to play on the board, on the committees that we're going to be on with the parents and the medical professionals and the staff, is just to kind of keep thinking of ways to, do things a little bit differently. So I'm sure we'll have a financial update on every board meeting moving forward.